Hello, welcome to Joy News Multi TV. My name is Amafa Ewena Matiamoa Eli. It's the festive season, and I know some of you are in the spirit of giving. I'm asking you, what is it that you want to give to society? We are blessed on this special interview, which will be coming your way very soon, with somebody who is not just giving material things, he's actually changing the lives of the people around him per his expertise. Professor Oheniba Boacheje is a spine surgeon. Welcome to Joy News, Professor Oheniba Boacheje.
Good morning. I say good afternoon.
It's the festive season, and I know you are getting ready for celebrations, to give things. Tell me, anything?
Yeah, it is. It's a great season for me in particular because it's my birthday.
Okay, congratulations. And how old will you be?
You want me to tell you? You may not give up your age. I guess we're different.
You should understand.
Well, by His grace, I'll be 66.
Congratulations. That's great to hear.
So I have a birthday, and then a week later we have the Christmas.
Okay.
So I can't win. I can't go wrong with this.
Congratulations.
But I'm ready.
Okay, so we at Multimedia will be celebrating with you because we know you are doing a great work here in Ghana.
Wonderful. I appreciate that.
Tell me, President and CEO of Focus Orthopedics Hospital, it's a big project. I know there's a bigger foundation, the Focus Foundation, which is supposed to raise funds to support this project. Can you tell me, how did it all start and what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, so I recognized the need to establish this organization and also to bring home the specialty that I'm involved in many years ago, but even before I left Ghana at the age of 21 to go to the United States. So my whole mission going to the US was to train, become a specialist, make some money, because I know it's going to involve a lot of money. And then eventually, after I have completed my professional training, raise my family, and to give back to the country. Okay. And it took me 40 good years. But at the 20th year, I was able to establish the Foundation of Orthopedics and Complex Spine, a non-profit organization established in New York with the sole mission to provide optimal orthopedic care to the underprivileged, especially Ghanaians. Okay. So this foundation is our development arm in New York that has raised funds and has been able to support the construction of the hospital and also some of the operations. So we've been doing this since 1998, bringing volunteers to come to Ghana and operate at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And then since 2004, we built a clinic and then the hospital in 2010.
Looking at you from afar, one would say it's a special area. It's not one profession that anybody at all can go in. Were you born with a silver spoon in your mouth?
Not really. I was raised by a single mother.
Really?
I didn't see my father until I was 10. He had been the chief, the Hiahine of Kumasi, but he lost the stool when I was 2 years old. Yes. And then he basically went back to the village to become a commissioner of oaths and a farmer. And he was also polygamous, so most of his wives, he let them go. And my mother was the youngest. So my mother raised me, and growing up, I would say that I came from a poor family, even though I'm called a prince. But
go on,
it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
But my mother was very determined to take care of her children. And education was one of her missions, that every child of hers get good education no matter what. He sold her clothes so we can all go to school.
Yeah.
And I was determined to become
And that
very
obviously will be very challenging, being a single parent. You want to tell us a bit about your mother and how she was able to take you through this journey?
Well, my beloved mother, who we lost about a month ago at age 82, had 7 children and was married 4 times. And she actually went to just 2nd grade, but she was so smart. You know, every time she was a petty trader, and every time she would come home and do her accounting, by the time I'm done with the additions, she already has the answer for me. And she would say to us that you guys should go to school because it's the ticket to success. Okay. And she made sure that we went to school. So I went to St. Joseph Primary and Middle, and then Apokwa Secondary School. And I remember her not being able to pay my school fees for a whole term until the last day. You know, and in those days, if you didn't pay your school fees, you didn't get textbooks. So I had to rely on friends' textbooks. I copied textbooks, and it probably helped me because I had to memorize them.
Of course, because it wasn't going to be
available. And so I always had the newest books, but at the end of the term.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But I did memorize those textbooks.
Okay.
And then at sixth form, I was determined to go abroad because I felt that if I wanted to become a specialist and also to be a super specialist and to be able to provide the services that are not available here, which is surgical specialties, that I will go abroad. So I went to the United States to attend Columbia Medical School, special surgery for orthopedics, and then specialty training in spine in Minneapolis. And I gave her a tremendous amount of credit because in those days, her friends were actually partying. Their kids were outside, playing and becoming truants. But she said, even if I have to sell my last piece of cloth, I will, and she did. But she always used to tell me that she was lending me money.
So that you pay?
So I'll pay back. And I sure did pay back. Oh, big time. I pay back big time.
I'm sure wherever she is now, she's so proud of you.
Yeah, I was glad that I came back 2 years ago to be able to have quality time with her before she left us.
Okay. Now let's come back to your specialty, orthopedics, and in your case, spine surgeon. How endemic or serious is the situation here in Africa and for that matter, Ghana?
Well, orthopedics is the second cause of disability all over the world. And that really affects people of all lives, also in all walks of life. Whether you are a child or an older person, if you're a child, you can have a musculoskeletal condition from either congenital malformation or infection. In my area, for instance, we see a lot of children who have congenital spinal deformities and idiopathic scoliosis. Spinal deformities in general occurs in about 2 to 3% of the population. Okay. So if we have 26 million people, you can imagine about 40,000 or more are affected by spinal diseases alone, which is an arm of orthopedics. And then you have arthritis, sickle cell affecting joints, trauma with injuries, which is really what's filling our hospitals right now because of trauma and injuries and fractures from accidents and whatnot. So orthopedics plays a huge role in our healthcare system, and one that we should do more for, because for 26 million people, there are no more than 25 orthopedic consultants. That's 1 per million. That's very, very woefully inadequate. So my goal is to help build capacity too.
Okay. And of all the specialties in healthcare, why did you choose to do spine? Why did you choose to go into orthopedics?
It's a long story, but I'll keep it short.
Okay.
When I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be a doctor because a doctor who volunteered to return to Ghana at the end of his training when I was 6 years old, suffering from gastrointestinal diseases, took care of me. So he became my role model. So I wanted to be a doctor. Okay. But having said that, when after medical school, I wanted to also become a surgeon, because you have to have a liking, a passion, and a talent. I was very good with my hands. You need psychomotor skills. And I was also very interested in anatomy and human physiology.
When you say you were very good at your hands?
Well, because I could build my own bamboo homes, I could build cars.
Really?
I could construct, I could do all of those things when I was young.
Okay.
So reconstruction of objects is one of my main areas. So I found orthopedics, which involved working with the human body, the musculoskeletal system, the psychomotor system, as well as the locomotive, the movements, the joints, the bones, and the ligaments and the nerves all together combine our movement. So orthopedics really attracted me in that as a specialty. But for spine, I actually kind of jumped on it fortuitously in that after my orthopedic training, actually just before the orthopedic training, I took a year off to do a fellowship in orthopedic pathology. And as the orthopedic pathology fellow, my assignment was to do a project. So I asked my professor, what project do you think should be done? He said, well, anatomic. I said, yes, I like anatomy. So I asked him, which area in the anatomic studies hasn't been studied well? He said, nobody wants to touch spine. I said, well, that's the one I want to do.
Really?
He said, you sure? I said, yes. So he directed me to the autopsy department at New York Presbyterian. I went there, talked to the pathologist. I said, I need some spines. He said, what? You need spines? We have to remove them from dead people. I said, no problem. So I went and read a textbook on spine anatomy, which was written in German. I had it translated. It was called Jürgen Schmoll. Okay. So I read Schmoll's book, And it was an old 1934 textbook written on spinal diseases. I said, I'm going to make this modern.
Exactly. I was about asking, how does that relate
so
to
for
today?
a whole year, I removed 100 full spines from dead people and was able to reconstruct it so you couldn't tell if anything had been taken out.
Hold on. Tell me about getting these dead bodies and getting
Well,
their spine.
I basically went to the autopsy department, the pathology
Okay.
department, and asked for permission to remove the spines to study.
You were not scared?
No,
yeah,
I wasn't
know the
scared.
training would
No.
have given
My
you
goal
some,
was to find the spines and study them. So I had to go through the health screening. Though in those days, we were very lucky we didn't have HIV, which would have been a problem.
Okay.
So I did all my screening in the viruses and hepatitis shot and tetanus shot. And then by the 10th specimen, I could remove a whole spine in 2 minutes.
Really?
Yes. So after having removed the 100 spines from the autopsy, I also resorted them to
Hold on, you were telling me it takes you 2 minutes to do that.
It can take you an hour or more to remove a whole spine, but I could do it in 2 minutes.
How is that possible? I mean,
well,
why?
I basically came up with a technique to do that, and I wrote a book about it.
Really?
So at the hospital, the next time you come, I'll show you the book. It's one of the best color atlases written on spinal diseases.
I see.
And I did that in 1988. So having removed the spines, I dissected them, I knew the anatomy, I found all kinds of diseases. I recruited college students to help me with it. So as an orthopedic resident, I actually became like a de facto spine specialist.
Okay.
So after the orthopedics, even though I was attracted to trauma and joint replacement, I had so much knowledge and interest in spine that I couldn't let it go. So I pursued a subspecialty in spinal diseases, did a fellowship at the Twin Cities Scoliosis Center in Minneapolis, and then stayed on as an attending consultant, spine specialist. And basically that's what has made me who I am.
I see. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Before we continue, you made mention of orthopedics pathology for the purposes of our viewers.
Correct.
All of us are not familiar with the medical.
Yes, so
term,
pathology is basically a study of anatomy and diseases by way of dissection, gross specimen inspection, and also doing histological or cell reviews. You look at it under the microscope. So basically it's looking, when you say you're going to look at a subject with a microscope, then it's detailed inspection. So that's really what it is. It's not just taking care of dead bodies. You could be an anatomic pathologist, chemical pathologist. So this was basically reviewing gross specimens from the operating theater and also at the same time dissecting them and reporting to the physicians what disease that you see under the microscope.
Okay. Let's come to Focus Ghana. Focus Ghana started in 2007, I guess.
Actually, Focus Ghana was established at the same time as Focus USA. In 1998.
But in terms of operations?
In terms of the operations and bringing volunteers to Ghana to do surgeries. And from 1998 to 2004, we operated at Kolebu, working with the local surgeons, anesthetists, and also the other consultants, and then bringing close to 500 volunteers from all over the world to do the operations. So
at what point did you become independent of Kolebu and the other hospitals? That was 2012. So Focus Orthopedic Hospital was opened April 2012. That's when we performed our first operation and became independent of Kolebu as a place to do surgeries. But we still collaborate with Kolebu because we still have consultants from Kolebu who come to help at Focus. And so occasionally I'll go and do an operation if it's something that is complex or beyond them. How have you been able to survive the period? Yeah, so orthopedics is expensive specialty because besides just doing the surgeries, we also reconstruct. And reconstruction implies putting things in the patient, most of which is prosthesis and implants, metal, and they're very costly. And in addition, orthopedics require, especially for spinal deformities and arthroplasty, whether you're dealing with a very sick child with spinal deformity or an older person who has diabetes, hypertension, and knee pathology or knee problems that has to be replaced, you need other specialists, anesthetists, general internal medicine, pediatricians, sometimes even pulmonary specialists and cardiologists. So these patients are reviewed by our specialists at Focus, and the ones that we don't have specialists at, we send them to Kolebu for review.
like echocardiogram and heart evaluation. So after all that is done and they pass their preoperative review, then we do the surgery. So we give patients a comprehensive, we call it a global fee to cover everything. But that global fee, let's say, is $10,000 for spine or for joint. It's still a lot of money. But this represents like 5% of what you will pay if you went outside the United States. So to be able to bridge the gap in terms of what we're collecting from patients and our operations, I mean, our yearly operations is about $6 million. But we may be able to collect only 3.5 or so from patient contributions. So we bridge the gap with fundraising. Focus USA helps us with the fundraising. And this year we had a fundraising event in New York. Last year we did one in Hong Kong. We hope to do one here in Ghana for the first time early next year, April or May. So we are able to support Focus through local internal revenue that's generated by patients paying, insurance companies supporting patients, corporations supporting patients. Other foundations also support patients, like the American Jewish Joint Distribution supports patients from Ethiopia. Nigerians who will pay cash, Gambians, Sierra Leoneans. Sierra Leone is also sponsored by an organization called African Surgery Incorporated. So via these avenues, we are able to capture about $4.5 million of the $6 million operating, and the rest is supplemented by Focus USA. So we hope to be able to establish, to have Ghana, Focus Ghana, really beef up our development and fundraising activities. So one day we can become completely independent of Focus USA. That's my goal.
How does anybody get treatment or service at Focus? Do I just walk in, or I had to go to the normal hospitals for me to be referred there before I receive treatment?
So there's both. It can be done both ways, and the two ways that you mentioned are possible. Patients who have orthopedic conditions but may not know exactly what they have will normally go to their general doctor, whether an internist or pediatricians, who will then say, oh, you have an arthritis of the knee, or you have a spinal condition, go to Focus, and then they will refer them to us. So the majority of our patients are referred by physicians who know that a patient has a subspecialty need. And then patients who have also had treatment at Focus will tell their friends or anyone who they know has a spinal or knee or hip problem to go to Focus, because they received care and they were very pleased with it. And then also, if you know what you have, and now people are becoming very educated, the educated consumer, your best customer. People are reading up on their conditions, and they see, oh, I have a spinal deformity, or I have scoliosis, I have kyphosis, or I have this. They'll go online nowadays, it's at our fingertips.
So
and
if they come in, they know what
Focus.
they're asking for.
Yes, and they'll say, oh, okay, Focus treat these problems. I'll go there, and then they'll call for an appointment. So they come via referral, self-referral, and also by either someone referring them to us, or an organization that already reviews these kind of patients and say, well, I'm going to send you to Focus for treatment.
You've treated cases in Ghana here, and most of the patients are not in the class of people you would think have the ability to settle their debts, but all they say, they have received their treatment. Tell us how Focus is able to do that.
Well, we try to provide patients with care regardless of need, but we can't do it for everybody. So we do a selection process based on age, complexity, and also need. So we tell our patients go to our financial offices for review. So they will do a financial assessment and then see how much the patient can contribute. So based on the financial need, they will give you a payment plan. They will ask you to come up with a deposit so that we can at least meet some basic costs, and then a payment plan. Those who really, really can't afford it, we go out and find help for them, like we come to multimedia. We'll come to you, we'll go to Vodafone, we'll go to TV Africa, we'll go to another organization, or we might go to Focus USA and say, can you help us with this patient? So every year we get maybe 10 to 20 patients sponsored through these kind of processes. Now we hope that we can have Ghanaians also sponsor Ghanaians. That's been our biggest challenge, is having the Ghanaian, especially the children. You know, when a child is born with spinal deformity, most of the time they come to us either with a single parent, because the other parent has either abdicated, thinking that this is a curse, especially the guys. The guys will run away, you know, but the mom is left with the child. The mom can't run away from her child, right? So children are the real culprits or the victims of this kind of neglect and abandonment. We have pastors like Pastor Lewis, who's with the ICGC. She's amazing. He's amazing. You know, he will go to the north and he will find a kid and say, well, you have a problem.
What I was
and
about
bring
asking,
the kid to us.
how are you able to get these individuals? Does somebody bring them to you, or you locate them yourself and say, this one is among our priority list, so let's take care of them?
Most of the time, someone will bring the individual, and then whoever brings the individual, we ask them, do you have a sponsor? And they may say yes or no. And if they say no, then we'll tell them how to go find a sponsor. We may direct them to some of the organizations that have sponsored patients. But most of the time, when someone brings a child, they are coming with the intention to help the child too. You know, Sister Elizabeth Adensawam, Compassion Africa, they do sponsor Ghanaians. Upright Africa, Congolese patients. So most of them are brought by individuals who are willing to also help the patient. Like you brought Jemima with the hope to sponsor her, and you found a way to sponsor her, and we treated her. So it's a complex process, but we hope that people will know about us. And once they know about us and what we do, that they can come to us with the issue, and that we can both all sit down and find a way to help the individual. The adults, most of the time, are able to find care for themselves, especially the ones with hip and knee arthritis. Most of them are able to either come up with a portion of their fees or all of their fees. It's really the children who suffer the most.
Talking about becoming a household name, focus in this regard so that you can get people to want to affiliate or do comfort treatment. Are you getting that exposure? Are you getting that familiarity you need to get the...
I think we are, but not as much as we would like to. Because occasionally somebody may come to focus and say, I didn't know you existed. Oh, I've never heard about you. I said, how many times can I continue
I'm an example. I remember when I brought you my mother.
Exactly, you didn't know, and you're on the media, right? So I think we need to do more. It's never enough to think that you have exposed yourself as much as you like to the population. So whatever process we have recently recruited a development team that's going to help us with this process of branding and exposure and marketing. So we hope that one day all Ghanaians will know us. That if you have an orthopedic problem, spine, hip, joint, knee, trauma, that you go to focus. That's where you can find the answer. Or at least find, if it's not the solution, at least understand your condition. Because of course we can't treat everything. There are some patients who come to us and it's just too late to do anything. And some patients' conditions don't require any treatment, but they are put at ease when we tell them that take it easy, what you have is not a problem, you can live with it, it's not going to affect your life or whatever, and therefore you go home at peace. So they don't go running around thinking that there is a problem that they have to treat, and they go home at peace.
Okay. Talking about the perception and the notion about the disease, do you think in terms of the traditional circles, Ghana, we see somebody who is hunchback, we think, yes, it's the family members who have one way or the other jinxed the person. Do you think this perception in any way is affecting your desire, the push to get these people to get the treatment they need?
Well, that superstition exists. I believe that people think that it's a curse or something happened for them to become deformed. So we try to educate the parents of these children that what they have is a condition that occurs all over the world. And I have an album that has white people, Chinese people, and I tell them I've traveled all over the world. So it's not something that you did wrong, either spiritually or even physically, unless, of course, you have an infection or you have an injury. A lot of people are born with spinal deformities because it's genetic.
Okay.
And some are born because it's congenital. So we try to educate them so that they know, oh, okay, it's not grandma or whoever did this or whatever, and that they should not ignore the child. So we educate them, and then we try to also tell them the prognosis as to what's going to happen if you did nothing or if you did something about it. And we like to be able to preach this as we go forward with our marketing agenda.
Okay. Prof, I see you as a patriot. Okay, it is always say people die for their countries, but you are living for your country because you are here, I'm talking to you now, and you are still imparting lives. How long do you expect to do this?
Well, so long as I have breath in my lungs,
okay,
I'm not quitting. Maybe not to the same degree,
okay,
but I'm not quitting so long as I have breath in my lungs, because I believe that the good Lord has put me here to train, to reproduce myself, to deliver care, because I think the experience that I have surpasses the experience that even the people that I train will have. Of course, eventually they will become as good and even better, which I like to see. But we all have to be patriots. I mean, John Kennedy said, ask not what you can do for your country, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Okay.
Ask not what your country can do for you,
but
what you can do for your country. We have a country that we have to do something for, regardless of your specialty. I'm a surgeon. You could be a lawyer, you could be an engineer, you could be a businessman. It all comes together to build a village that we live in. Because a village needs everybody. It's just like a human body. You need the head, the hands, the feet, all of it.
So in that, you have traveled far and wide, I mean, over the diaspora. Ghanaians are all over the world with so many skills, so many expertise. Do you think the country is benefiting from these people in terms of its development?
I would not be able to answer that question because I don't have the data, but I hope that we are benefiting from our brothers and sisters abroad in the diaspora. We should be able to do more though, but it's really incumbent on the government to lay out a plan to attract Ghanaians. Because I have about 8 of my classmates who are physicians in the United States. And I'm sure in other specialties there are several of them. They can all come back and contribute. Several years ago, we wanted to build a hospital called Ghana International or the Airport City Hospital. That's about 20 years ago. It never took off. Even though it was established and started by Ghanaians, it never took off for many reasons. There were no incentives established in the country to attract this kind of investment. And it was very difficult to even get the money to build it. Yeah, and I'm sure there were other issues also that impeded their progress. You know, I found out that you cannot expect a country to do everything, but you have to start from somewhere. But it takes a big sacrifice to do that. I think our government can really build incentive plans to attract Ghanaians to bring their expertise back. But you have to roll out programs such as free trade, free transfer of your equipment, maybe tax exemption. Up to date, we still don't have tax exemption that is established as a blanket exemption. With every import, every container, we have to go to the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance to get approval. Okay, and we've been hoping that at least we'll get this MOU consigned so that we can have tax exemption. Because unless you get these kind of breaks, you have to add the cost to whatever you bring in, which raises the cost that you're going to charge people. So if you want to keep your costs down, you need a break somewhere else. So we live on some donations and some discount purchasing from companies that we deal with in the United States. I think the government can help. So if you ask me, can I go tell my friends to come to Ghana?
Is the environment attractive enough?
I think it is, but the incentives are not there to encourage them to do that. You know, I should have been given at least one free car delivery.
By government, you mean?
I mean, of course. I mean, bringing my car from the U.S. as a retiree, shouldn't I have a free container? Yeah. Shouldn't I have a free car? But I have to pay several thousands of dollars for the cars that I brought. At least I should have been given something.
It's all for the work.
Exactly, it's all for the work.
Comfort.
Okay. So the government, I can't tell them exactly what they have to do, but they have to make it attractive. And they need to have ambassadors out there preaching, please come help us. Because it has to work together. It should be private-public partnership. And there's a lot of money outside that Ghanaians are sitting on. And I'm sure a lot of them love to come back as retirees. I wish I had come back in my 40s and 50s, but I can't. I have 3 sons who are all in the healthcare field. I can't tell them to come back before they reach their retirement age, because if they come back, at least of course they'll have a place to stay, but they have living expenses that they have to meet. They have their families that they have to raise, and they probably want to send their kids to schools abroad, and that's going to cost them money. Okay, so until they have checked all the blocks, it's difficult to really leave behind that type of environment and those greener pastures to come here. I did so when I had checked all my blocks. Kids are out of college, my wife is happy, we had a home built, and therefore I can give back some of the money that I had saved to build this hospital.
Okay. Interesting there. There's one thing I've been thinking about. The environment is not attractive, it's not enabling, but all the same, you ignore all these odds and you still came in. I mean, what is making you stay? For which reason anybody should look at you and say, after all, Prof did it, so I can also do it?
Well, that's the kind of inspiration I like to give people, because you cannot look at a problem and say, this is a huge problem, let me stay away from it. If I killed my patient, the diseases will still be there, even though the patient is gone, right? So I have the desire and the passion to help. It's really in my soul. And once you have that will, there will be a way. I believe that if God gives you a mission, He'll also provide the way for you. And it's worked for me. And I know that anyone who sets their mind to do something that they think is impossible, it can become possible. I believe in faith, I believe in family, and I believe in focus.
I can see you're very religious. Before we get there, putting focus on the national level, I mean, at a place where anybody at all could just walk in to get the treatment they so desire and want. Yeah. Are we looking at a situation where we can get government involved? Forgive me, but we are looking at a situation where you can have a bigger facility, you have all the incentives, you have all the support, the systems you need to attend to more patients. Are we having that picture, and how soon are we getting there?
Well, it's a very good question that you raised, and that's the goal that I have, is actually our vision to build a sustainable infrastructure. And to do that, you need to expand your facilities physically as well as your personnel. So can the government be part of it? I believe so. When we started Focus, we actually had a $1.5 million grant from the government to purchase the land and to start the foundation. Okay. And then with that, I was able to convince my partners outside. I see the government is helping, and we're able to raise another $16 million. Okay. So that type of partnership helps. Well, currently, the specialty that we have is not covered by, say, NHIS. So patients have to pay. So let's say if NHIS were to expand its coverage to specialty services, then it may also ease the financial burden on patients.
And the reason the NHIS is not coming on board is the fear that it's costly. Yes. Government is unable to absorb the cost.
Exactly. Yeah, because right now, how much does the government spend on an individual Ghanaian per year? $35. That doesn't go far. So we're not really spending enough on our citizens. Okay, so the government can partner with private entities such as ours, because for the $1.5 million, I was able to raise $16 million. That's a huge marching fund. In the future, we'd like to build a Focus Institute. That institute will have facilities to train more surgeons and nurses and physical therapists, and also be able to reach out to the world. We actually are in a very good position to establish medical tourism, because we're already doing that. The Ethiopians, the West Africans, all these people who are coming, there is the expanded benefit that the country is receiving. When we built Focus in that village of Pantan, there was nothing there. Well, now there are homes that people are renting to the nurses and to the doctors. There are shops people are selling. So, you know, it's the added benefit, you cannot count it. Yeah. And if we have, say, medical tourism and people are sending dollars to pay for their surgeries, where does the dollar end up? In the community. And it ends up in the community.
Yeah.
It's either in the bank or some kinky seller, or at least a nurse has a job. And we have employed 200 employees at the hospital in addition to per diems. So if focus were to fold, 200 people translates to maybe 1,000 people, because each individual is probably taking care of 10 mouths. Okay, so the benefits are huge, and the government can see that. I've met with pretty much all the past presidents about our assistance, our programs, what we're doing, the kind of help we need from them. Okay, so if they partner with us on an expansion programs, whether in construction or in personnel or equipment purchasing, breaks, discounting, tax exemption, let's say power. We pay $25,000 a month on just power. That you can treat 2 or 3 patients.
Before you
but
pay
are we
your
going to get a
doctors.
break on power? We're probably not going to. But I think an ingenious government can do something about it.
Yeah.
You know? So at least we don't suffer outrages if we have 2 grids coming in at the same time. So I think this is an area that needs more exploration, but we have made some of them known to the heads of states. And I'm hoping that I will continue to have the privilege to speak with them and to update them on what we're trying to do, so we can all work towards building.
How has the response been so far? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it promising?
It could be better. Yeah. For now, I would say it's been a fair response. It can be better, seriously. I mean, like the access road that you used to come to the hospital, it's 4 years now that I've been asking for help to build it. Only recently that one of it was constructed, which is so far away from us that it actually adds more distance to the travel to the hospital, whereas there's a shorter access road that could be paved. These are actual low-hanging fruits that the government can take and help us along.
Prof, so much knowledge, so much skill. Beyond being in the theater and doing the surgeries, doing the replacement yourself, how much of this knowledge are you transferring to those who are learning under your feet? In case you are absent, you are not around. Are you sure?
Oh, plenty of it. I'm doing that every day. We have our day starts with patient rounds that I do with the local surgeons and physicians, and I charge them to do the rounds and report back to me. And therefore correct them in areas that need correction, and they're doing amazingly well. So perioperative management, they're very good at that. They can diagnose diseases, they can actually, so then when it comes to the surgery, I'm always there with the local surgeon, Dr. Akoto, Dr. Yankee, Dr. Mawuli, Boite, Dr. Sakifio. These are all local surgeons. I have actually reduced the number of foreign visitors for that reason. You know, like 2 weeks ago, a Ghanaian or neurosurgeon from the United States came to visit me, and he wanted to move back to Ghana and say, Charlie, you're too young. You just come visit me for a while. And then later on in your 40s, when you've taken care of your kids, and when you built your house, and you have your mansion, because don't come here and expect to be paid the same way you're getting paid. You come here as a volunteer. I see myself as a volunteer. And no matter how much the hospital gives me, it's not going to really meet my needs as much as it is. So I still support myself with what I have saved, you know, during my years in practice. But I'm always in the operating theater with 1 or 2 local surgeons. And I am pleased to say that now they can do about 70% of the work. Which is good.
Great way, yeah.
If they can do 70% of the surgery,
that's relieving.
To me, that's a huge accomplishment in 2 years. And I'm hoping that in the next 5 years, I'll add 2 more surgeons, Ghanaian surgeons who are undergoing training right now to the hospital. So by the time I'm 70, God willing, that I can really, really sit back and just guide and coach and not be the one doing the real surgery. So the remaining 20 to 30% of the surgery, I'm sure we're going to get there in the next 5 years. That will make my day.
Okay, let's go on a lighter note now. You were telling me a bit about how your faith has influenced what you do. I want to hear more of it. Tell me.
Well, I'm a Christian, and I believe that we're brought here for a purpose. I mean, when I was young and I was sick, my grandmother told me that I had a vision, basically telling her that someone was telling me in white apparel that I shouldn't worry about dying, that I'm healed, that I should go home.
Whoa.
My grandma said, let's go home. And then we just didn't go home, even though other kids were dying next to me that I saw.
Okay.
We just didn't go home, but she took me to a physician.
That's deep.
Yeah. And the physician said, your case is very interesting. We doctors, when somebody has a bad case, that's a very interesting case.
And you had an interesting case.
I had a very interesting case. So he actually took care of me, did not charge a penny.
Really? In the dream? By your grandmother?
But then when the next day, she took me to Kumasi, and we went to a physician. And the physician said, don't worry about the money, I'll take care of you.
That's a prophecy, you know.
The physician took care of Dr. Mensah, Subin Valley. People of my age know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
So he took care of me, and for 40 years, I was never sick.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a miracle.
So he actually was my role model. That's the reason why I wanted to be a doctor. But even though I was only 8 years old, I still remember vividly the time that I was sick and how much I suffered, you know, and how he talked to my grandma, who was literally begging for help, because my mom was only a teenager when I was born, and she was out there doing her thing. But I remember what he told my grandma and the story, and I said to myself, I want to be like this guy one day. So to me, that was fate. And it was a divine intervention that I got well, but not by the laying on of hands, but through a physician. And God, that's how God works. We are instruments of the Lord, you know, and we are all angels of the Lord. And He directs us to individuals with the expertise. Just like He directed the prophets in the olden days, people with certain specialties in crafts and things to do the job for the tabernacle, right? He didn't command it to land from the heavens. He used the individuals to do the job. So we are His instruments, you know, and He gives us talents and He gives us time. So we have to use it appropriately. Okay. So that has kept me going as a strong believer in the good Lord. And in this festive season, He gave us His Son, right? And that's why we are celebrating Christmas. So in the same way, we need to give back.
Yeah, yeah. Congratulations and well done. I want to take a word from you to the youth who might be watching you. What would you tell them in their desire, in their quest to become someone like you? What should be their focus? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I basically will use myself as an example. And it's probably because of my background, being raised by a single mother. I knew that if I got into trouble, there was no one to bail me out. So I stayed out of trouble. I stayed in school because I knew that was my only way and the best way to really reach my goals. Because I had seen professors, I had seen people who were educated and who were very successful. So I concentrated on my education. So stay out of trouble, concentrate on your education, and then look for opportunities. Because opportunities come when you don't expect them. But when it does come, you have to be ready and be prepared.
How do you know my opportunity has come?
Well, you will know when it comes. You will know when it comes. I'll give you a perfect example. For instance, there's a young lady who I recruited to help my mother as a private duty nurse when my mother was sick. So this lady sat down with me. I told her exactly what I wanted. Of course, she knew who I was. She did an amazing job. So my mother passed away, and I said, this lady should not be left alone to go home. So I brought her to Focus to work.
Whoa.
That's an opportunity.
Whoa, yeah.
And she was ready.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Yeah. And in the same vein, when I was a general surgeon looking for orthopedic pathology fellowship, and I didn't know where to, we were operating one day, and the surgeon said, I have a specimen that I want to take to special surgery. And nobody wanted to take that specimen, and I volunteered. And everyone was looking at me like, you're not a messenger. I said, don't worry, I volunteered. So I took that specimen to special surgery to the pathologist. I told him exactly what was wrong with the patient, why we're bringing the specimen. He said, you have so much knowledge about this case. What are you doing? I said, well, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm looking for a specialty. I want to do pathology. He says, you can come work with me. That was an opportunity, but I was ready. So when you're ready and you know what you're looking for, when the opportunity arises, you will know it. So stay out of trouble, stay in school, look for opportunities, and don't think what you want to do is impossible, because you can accomplish it if you try.
Focus is into a lot of work in terms of treating people, affecting lives. In case I want to support or to buy into what you are doing, how do I come on board? Anybody who is watching, maybe wanting to offer a hand of assistance.
We would appreciate help from anyone who wants to support us, especially the children that we're treating that need sponsorship. We have established a children's endowment fund. So that information is available, and I believe you broadcast it some time ago. So people can help by supporting the Children's Endowment Fund, which will help a child through surgery. We also have projects that we are embarking on, like the Children's Ward, which is in progress right now. It's under construction. We're also soliciting help to complete the Children's Ward in terms of furnishing, decorations, the beds, and whatnots. And then we also have the grant program or project, which is the institute. That's multi-million-dollar project. So people who have that type of money can also help us build this institute. So I would say the Children's Fund to help a child, even if you're not able to support a child through the whole, for the entire amount, portions of it, because a little bit here, a little bit there will add up, you know, to help a child. So the Children's Fund is the best way to make a contribution to the hospital.
Any last words?
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to sit in this nice shade in a comfortable environment to speak about my life, about focus, about what we're doing for our country and also for our people. And that in this festive season that we're all cherishing, that we shouldn't forget that the best way to be happy is to serve another person. You know, there's a Chinese proverb that says, if you want to be happy for an hour, you take a nap. If you want to be happy for a year, you go fishing. But if you want to be happy for a lifetime, you find someone to help. So let's find somebody to help. And we're doing our part, and everyone can do this in their own way also.
Prof, it's been great having you. You're a genius, you're a blessing to our society. And just as you said, if we want to live a full lifetime, we need to serve another person.
Right.
We believe that people watching you have taken that advice, and we all have the heart to want to serve another person. And in this festive season, we wish you the best. Great to have you once again.
Thank you, and that's my prayer too.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.